Debbie Stokes of Three Women Voices. Today, my special guest is a former inmate of the federal prison system and doesn't let her past define who she is today. Now, I introduce to you Alicia Williams. I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So why don't you start off with just telling everybody your story?
Hello, my name is Alicia Williams, and I appreciate you listening to my story today. I am a mother of 5 between my husband and I, ranging from the age of 25 to a 4-year-old, a rambunctious 4-year-old that keeps me busy. My story is still being written, of course, but I'd like to say that going to prison was something that God had to do for me to sit me down. It wasn't that I necessarily went to prison for something that I did. I never say, why me, but why not me? Because I believe that I was actually built for it. And I say that because some people go to prison and they don't understand it. They can't comprehend why. They can't accept it. They can't use that time to really see yourself outside of yourself, because literally you have time. You're doing time because you have that time to reflect. And some people have been there for years and never get the opportunity to actually really understand why God put you in that situation. For me, I went in with the attitude of, and I used to say this mantra all the time, I'd say, I'm on a mission, I have a journey, and God's going to see me through it. I never knew what it was for. I didn't know that if I was going to prison for myself or for somebody else. And the meaning, was I there to meet somebody that was going to change my life? And I actually did. I met several women that changed my life. So my story began, growing up with a single mother. She had 2 little girls, 2 different fathers. I was told up until I was 20 years old, one man was my father. After a DNA test, I realized that wasn't it. So it was the other one. And the weirdest part about it, the one that actually was my father was a friend of my mom's growing up. So I saw him all the time. I just didn't know him as my father. But I say all those things to say that growing up, I had a mother that was addicted to drugs, and I found out she was actually on drugs when I was about 11 to 13 years old. And here I am, 47, and she's only been off, I guess, the last 15 years. And so I grew up with that. And for all of the failings that my mother had as a mother, and I say this, I always tell her, I can't fight your demons and mine. So I'm gonna let you have yours. I cannot make you be the person that I want you to be. I have to accept you for who you are right now in this moment. And I will say that for whatever shortcomings she had as a mother, she is the best grandmother that I could ever ask for. I had a sister that was only 2 years older than me, but she was a prostitute at 13. And so I grew up seeing things and knowing, okay, if that's the path that they took, I wasn't that person that said, if I go down this road, it's not going to affect me like it affect them. I said, oh, I see how it's doing you. Let me go this way. In 2004, my sister was actually murdered. And so she was murdered in 2004. They found her remains in 2006. They didn't identify her until 2009 after my mom and I submitted some DNA samples to the DNA database. And so you have literally 5 years of not knowing what happened, not knowing where she was, what happened. She literally disappeared. And so after that closure, because it was what it was closure. After they found the body, they let us know what was going on. They let me know where she was buried, and it's beautiful because she was buried in Babyland Cemetery. So she's surrounded by babies, which is wonderful to me. And I know that she's watching over the babies, like she watched over me all my life, basically. And so she was barely 30 years old when she died. And so I had to deal with that. And she was in and out of prison her whole life, her whole adult life. My sister would do 5 years here, 4 years here, 10 years here. And I would receive these letters from her from prison all the time. And so I was cleaning out my garage one day, and I said, before I went in, I was like, okay, let's clean the garage. I'm getting antsy. I know there's something I did, and I packed up all these things. And it was literally about 2 weeks before I was to self-surrender to prison. I found a box of my sister's letters. And it was all these letters from all these different prisons that she had been to. And I had saved them and I kept them, you know, but I never looked at them. It would be years. This stuff just followed me from house to house. You know how we do. And so when I saw those and I said, I'm your little sister. I can do this. I'm your little sister. Like, you did all this whole time for aggravated assault and this and that. And so, you know, and it was like she was in a maximum security prison sometimes, and she was here and all this. And I was like, you can do it, I can do it. If you can do it, I can do it. What makes me any different? There are millions of people in prison right now, you know, whether they should be there or not, but they're doing it every day. When I went to prison, I started a tax company, just a little bit about it. I started a tax company. I've been doing taxes since 2010. I actually opened my own company in 2011. And I was, you know, under the tutelage of a company who was on the line. And I knew accounting, and I can't say that I didn't know what I was doing, because I did. But my philosophy was, let me be the tax office that actually helped you, that tried to get you as much as you can, at the very least, you know, what you qualified for. When you came to me, I'm not H&R Block. I can't, it's about quantity with them. It has to be about quality to me, because I was a small person. You know, for every one person that came in here, there was a million came over there. So I had to show you something different. And what I tried to do, and I educated my clients as well, but when the IRS is calling you saying, hey, did you go to her office and did you do this and did you this? Most of us don't talk to them. Or we're too scared to say, I don't know what happened. Even though you've been educated, even though you've been understanding that, I'm telling you, just because you didn't show me a receipt, if the IRS calls you, you have to show them. You have to back your stuff up. And then they'd be like, well, I don't know what happened. You know, so, and there was 6 tax returns in 2014 that they came to me about in 2016, saying that they were fraudulent. And this is their basis of fraudulent. And I give this example all the time. Say, for instance, I have a client, Teresa. I do Teresa's taxes. Well, Teresa's sister, Martha, wants me to do her taxes. Well, Martha gives Teresa all of her information, and Teresa gives it to me. I do the tax return. Everything is gravy. Everything is great. Well, because Martha didn't give me her tax return directly, it's identity theft, which is something that everybody in the history of taxes have done. We base our business on referrals. We base our business on that. And so I can't fight a technicality. I couldn't fight a technicality. And so they bumped all the 6 charges down. There was 12 charges, 2 counts apiece for 6 people, identity theft and wire fraud. Well, they couldn't get me on taxes because my actual tax returns, and I've done thousands, were not fraudulent. It was the fact that they said I got a tax return, not from the individual directly, but through a supporting person. And so they didn't want me. I was a small fish in a big pond, but the feds, their success rate is 90+% because of, you know, we just plea out. And the tax return that I pled to was 1 count of identity theft, a tax return that I didn't even do. It just was in my office. I even have affidavits from the actual the taxpayer saying, Alicia didn't even do my taxes, and there was nothing wrong with my taxes, and my girlfriend worked for her. So wow, why couldn't I give my information? So it was the craziest thing ever, but they said, technically, if you didn't give it to her, it's identity theft. And so they were saying, well, and he was like, well, go after the girl at the office that did it. Well, that's not going to happen, because now those are my employees. And so I always say, if you're going to be the boss, sometimes you got to boss up. So I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. Don't look at my employees. They're doing what I told them to do. I would take full responsibility for this. And I took that full responsibility. I had a less than a 2-year-old sitting at home, and I said, how much time would I get? And they said, well, for aggravated identity theft, there's a mandatory minimum, which I think is crazy when you talk about prison reform. A mandatory minimum for a first-time offender, non-violent offender, on a trumped-up technicality, it was a 24-month sentence. And so in the feds, you do about 85%. So I did 17 months in federal prison, at a federal prison camp, or as I like to say, an adult daycare. And so I get there. I drove down with my ex-husband. I was married at the time to husband number 2. We've been together for, it would have been 9.5 years we were together, but I divorced him in year 9 because I didn't want to pay him alimony. I'm just keeping it real. I always made more money. So I had a tax office and a trucking company. Okay. Sister girl was doing it, so I was here, as far as my professional life, I was on it. I had the perfect child. I had the perfect house. I had the perfect everything. We had material things. There was no love in that relationship, though. But we had a lot of material things. And so we drove down to FPC Bryan, Federal Prison Camp Bryan in Bryan, Texas. And as soon as I got there, I was like, okay, here we go. I had my hair back in a ponytail, I had a couple of tank tops and tights. I was like, okay, I had a couple of $100 in my pocket. I'm like, I don't need no money. They'll give me what I need. Put some money on my books when you get home. I'm thinking I got this all set. Then it was like it hit me. So I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, and I'm not wanting to show a lot of emotion sometimes. So I'm just like, okay. So a lady comes up and she's like, sir, you dropped her off. We're grateful for you, but it's time for you to go. We got her now. And so she was like, I want to give him a hug, bye, and y'all going on about your business, and you'll get to talk to her in a couple of days. So I was like, okay. And then I looked at her name tag and it said, Felicia. Well, my sister's name is Felicia. So I was like, okay, I see you. Okay, I can do, again, all the signs. So here I am on this compound with a few other people who were in there for tax fraud and tax evasion and, medical fraud, all these different frauds, because it's all, camp is really very low. And so I get with this group of girls, my core, like as soon as we get there, we click up. We're from Dallas, we from Texas, you hanging. And then I start to see, this is not why I'm here, because all we did, we sat around, we gossiped, we talked, we laughed, and it was nothing productive. So I started reading, I started writing. Once they found out I was in there for taxes, I became the tax advice expert. Even in prison, I was like, are you kidding me? So I was that person. I was, I ended up doing my own divorce when I was in prison. I became a divorce attorney, quote unquote, an alleged divorce attorney. And reason I had helped so many people get their own divorces while they were in there. And I said, you know what, God, thank you, because my mission is to help somebody other than myself. I'm always that person that will, if I see a wreck on the side of the road, I'm pulling over, making sure there's no kids in the backseat. I'm the one jerking out of the car, trying to get you out of the car before it blows. I'm the one that have done, and I say that because those are the things that I've done. But again, while in prison, I started to read, and I was reading Shakespeare, which I love. I was going to be an English literature teacher at one point in my life with a focus on Shakespeare. So I started rereading the classics. Huckleberry Finn, Moby Dick. I was reading everything. And then I started reading hood books, and it was like, oh. And I walked. I walked all day. By the time I left prison, I came in at 215, 217. I was 180 pounds when I came up out of there. And so now, mind you, my husband fries everything. I gained all that back and then some. So I'm not even gonna go there, but I was healthy. I was happy because at first I was like, oh, my people can't live without me. I did all the bills. I paid everything. I was the support group. If somebody wanted to cry and call and advice and this and that and the babysit and all this, I was that person. When I went to prison, they had the audacity to live without me. They had the nerve to live their lives as if I didn't exist. The nerve of these people. I literally went through my prison experience. No bills I didn't pay. No, I didn't have to worry about what I was going to eat. I had enough commissary. I had enough friends and family that put money on my books every month. So for 17 months, I might not have gone to commissary maybe twice, only because they didn't put it on in time or something of that nature. But that next week, I made up for it, honey. So I had everything I needed. But what I didn't have was my child. And that's the only thing that bothered me in prison, away from family. Trying to parent a 2-year-old for 15-minute phone calls is not going to happen. Half the time she didn't want to talk to me, so I'm like, well, it's mommy. And she's like, hey, mommy, where are you? And I'm like, it's mommy. She doesn't have a clue. Even now she does, she's 4, she still didn't have a clue. And that's really the only reason why I took that 2-year deal, because she wasn't even 2 yet. By the time I got out, she was 3. I got out a week before her 3rd birthday. She had no clue, and she came to see me. My aunt and my uncle would bring her down to see me once a month. That was they stayed for 3 hours on a Saturday, once a month. I got to spend with my child. I was good. I went to Pilates. I took my ACE classes, my adult continuing education classes. I took an anthology class. I'm actually published. I wrote poems in prison that was in an anthology and has been published. I was in a play. I was in 2 plays. I was in theater arts. I helped write programs for people. I helped write resumes for people. I wasn't just sitting there. I was building my brand, if that was it. And so, and on some of the good days, and there were bad days, we had some guards that, inmate this, inmate that, thief this, thief that. And I'm like, honey, you are one decision away from being my roommate. And they hated when I said that.
Take me back to when you were in front of the judge.
Oh, Lord.
And
okay.
The judge said, you have to do 24 months. Tell me what that experience was like.
So I actually spoke for myself. I had letters from pastors and from college university presidents and the city manager of the city of Terrell, where I'm actually from. And I had all of these high-end falutin people, and the judge didn't care anything about any of that. They really do not care for a person of color, I should say. It seems that they do not care that much. And so my attorney was like, you're very articulate, so you can speak for yourself. I said, okay. So when I sat there and I was talking to the judge, and he was like, do you have anything to say, on your behalf that would determine my sentence or anything of that nature? And so my attorney was asking for a downward departure, and a judge has the discretion to do whatever they want to do. Okay. I literally, even though it was a mandatory minimum, if he had said, you do 6 months or probation, you can go home. And the crazy part about it is the prosecutor was okay with him doing everything but sending me home. If they had gave me 3 months or whatever, a year and a day, so you can get out in 9, they would have been happy. They didn't care. He told me as such. As long as I wasn't going directly home, they didn't care. So the man is talking, and he's like, well, what about you? And I said, well, based on the letters that I was reading from my friends and family and colleagues, I'm a person that I would want to know. And so, I was able to read most of those letters, and I said, don't define me by one mistake, because that's not who I am. I always say that I am a wife, I am a mother, I am a sister, I am a daughter, I am a grandmother, I am an entrepreneur, I'm a leader, I'm a follower, I am an inmate, I am a child of God, I am all these other things, not just that. All those things make up who I am and my experiences and my journey. And so when he was talking to me, and I did this whole big spiel about who I am and how one mistake does not define this person, and this man sits there and says, okay, great, all of that is wonderful, and I could do a downward departure on you, but I'm not, because you stole some identities which went to let me know that he did not read anything in my case, because if he had read that, he'd have known that I never stole that identity. They were given to me,
Mm-hmm.
just not directly. And so at that moment, my brain said, just suck it up. Whatever this man says at this point, it is what it is, because he didn't know me, didn't want to know me. All he saw was it's identity theft.
Okay.
And we had already had done a plea agreement, so he didn't have to look into the case.
Right.
You know.
What did prison do to you mentally?
Mentally, it let me see that it allowed me to understand my role.
Okay.
Just for me to stay in my lane.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out now. I did 17 months in prison, and I did 4 months in a halfway house.
Okay.
And when I got out, I still had a BMW. I still had 18-wheelers. I still had all this, but I also had a bitter ex-husband who took everything.
Mm.
He had my child. He had everything that I had. I had, like I said, I got out on November 17th. November 15th, 2018.
Okay.
2018. My daughter's birthday is November 24th. So a week later was her birthday, and I was at the halfway house. I couldn't leave. So
Okay.
he was to bring her to me on her birthday that Saturday, and let me spend my few hours with her. Then they can go party. She was turning 3. It wasn't like she needed a big party or anything. She was 3. She didn't care, and he didn't show up. That's what happens when, now that you know how it feels when somebody says they're gonna do something and they don't. Because I was supposed to wait it until I got out of prison to divorce him.
Okay.
Because he didn't take care of my daughter properly, I divorced him while I was inside. I don't waste time. When your one job is to take care of my child and you don't do that properly, I got rid of you.
Okay.
And so we're still, and even to this day, 2 years later, I've been out. It'll be 2 years in November, and we're still going to court for custody. We're having a custody, and she lives with me all day, and I haven't talked to the man since May. So apparently, you're not too concerned about what she got going on, but we're still going to court.
Right.
So I had these stumbles. I thought when I got out, all of these people were just going to do, because that's what I did. I did for them, and it wasn't like that. I had my core who didn't let me fall. I will say I had my cousins, my mom, oh my God, my friends. They stepped up. So I called in every favor. I called in and I said, hey, I need $1,000. I went to work. I got this. I called in this man for 100. I called in you for 100. I called in you for 100. And I bought me a car in like 3 months after being in the halfway house.
Okay.
But I had to realize that I need to stay in my lane. What I do for others isn't always what they're going to do for you. If I give freely, doesn't mean somebody else is going to give as freely as I do.
That's right.
I will give you my last. And now I know that, you know what, I'm going to give you some of it. I'm just not going to give you all. And that's okay. I can say no, mean that no, and I'm okay with it. That's what prison taught me, because you have no control. If they tell you you can't take a shower after 9 o'clock, you better not be in there after 9 o'clock. If they tell you that you're only going to eat certain this and this, that's the only thing you're going to eat. If they tell you that you can't get on the phone, if they tell you you can't use email, if they tell you you can't go, there's nothing you can do.
Right.
I was in a drug class because the lady told me that I need to work on my control issues. Now, mind you, there's only supposed to be about 10 people in this class, and I done took up somebody's spot that actually was a drug problem, but she felt that she needed to break me.
Wow.
And it never happened. I'm like, honey, what you fail to understand is I've made peace with who I am. I've made peace with who my mother is. I've made peace with who my father is. I've made peace with who my sister was. So me coming here, yes, I have control issues because this man has control of my child, and that's the only piece that I can't control. That's the only piece of me that is failing at this moment, as being an inmate, being 503-69177. That's who I was to her. I'm like, I'm a mama trying to get my kid.
Life must be great for you. How does it feel in this stage of your life?
It's still a process. It's still a process, because my husband he didn't know me, the grown-up Alicia.
Okay.
I didn't know him as a grown-up Iris. We were high school sweethearts. We were boyfriend and girlfriend at 17, 18 years old. Then when I graduated high school, I was gone. I moved to California. And so when we meet each other again, we're in our 40s. And when he comes around my family, and he knew my sister back then and everything, and he knows my mother, and he comes around now, and all my friends are like, and all my family's like, this must be really hard on you. When you went to prison, you had all these things, and now you don't have anything like that. And so he feels that it's his job to get me back to that place. I had to say, okay, Alicia, you're not in prison anymore. It's time to do something. And then so my husband and I were talking about how me and the girls were sitting around saying prison problems this, prison problems that, everything was a prison problem. And we came up with, even in prison, the girls, we were like, well, whoever gets out, we're going to start a prison problems t-shirt line. And so I've been out almost 2 years and nobody did it. And so a month ago, my husband and I were talking about it, and he said, well, stop sitting there and doing nothing, do it.
Oh.
So I got the logo done, I got the t-shirt mock-ups, I got everything. So now I have my website, www.prisonproblems.com. You can buy t-shirts, you can buy mugs with prison problems on it. I mean, I'm a procrastinator, but once I start, I'm on it. I'm still an entrepreneur by heart. If I actually did a 9 to 5, I'm actually a financial systems analyst by trade. I learn your software, I break it, I fix it, I retrain it. And so me being the brilliant mind that I was thought, when I get out of prison, baby, I'm gonna have me a good job. I don't work out on little, I ain't found nothing. I'm overqualified. Well, I'm 47 years old and I've been working since I was 16, and I've been in fields where the companies are number 1 or number 2 in the industry. So I have all of this elaborate, computer experience and software analytical experience, but I'm too overexperienced. I'm overqualified. And every interview that I went to, they said, well, you'll get bored here.
Oh.
They always, every single one, they was like, well, you'd get bored here. You've had your own businesses. Why would you stay here? And I said, because I need normal. I need normal. I have a 4-year-old. I got to go pick her up at daycare at 6. I'm not staying here to 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night anymore. I need normal. And they're like, but you'll be bored here. And it's true. And it's absolutely true. And so now that I've started my business, I also got another business in the works that is starting, so I'm partnering with another friend that's COVID related, doing some COVID cleaning actually.
Okay.
And so I'm in a good place.
Okay.
I'm in a great place right now. I have my daughter, I have my husband, I have my mom. My grandmother unfortunately passed while I was in prison. And that is about the only regret that I have. But when she did pass, she passed in July of 18. I got out in November.
Okay.
And so she just barely did. But when the chaplain calls you in and tells you, hey, your grandmother passed, and I just smiled. And he was like, so you're taking this very well. I said, well, I know where she is. She's good.
What life lessons have you learned that can possibly help others?
Everybody's not your friend. Everybody's not your friend. The case that I was on, the girl that was she wasn't a co-defendant, but she was a related case. Basically, she got in trouble, started naming everybody she knew in the tax business. And so that's how I came about.
Okay.
And so this was somebody who I'd been in your house several times. We used to work together. I've known you for 10 years. Your daughter graduates from high school. I supply all of her college dorm furniture. We were intertwined in each other's lives. And you did not say, hey, leave your phone in the car. Meet me at this restaurant. Let's go talk. Because this is what's about to go down. She did none of that.
Okay.
She did not do that. And I would have given her the courtesy to say, hey, we're friends. I understand that you may have to go to prison because of me, because of this, but I have a child at home. I need to raise my child just like you do. What can we do to help each other? That never happened.
Okay.
That never happened. And I thought this girl was my friend, And so when you start knowing and you have feelings, listen to your intuition. Listen to your intuition. Don't think that because it happened to 6 out of the 10 people that you know, that you could be the number 7 that it won't happen to, because you just don't know. It can always be you. It can always be you, and to be prepared if it is you.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that I was prepared to go, like, I didn't have a savings, I didn't have this, I didn't have that when I went to, I mean, be prepared mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Have that fortitude to be able to withstand some things, because you're going to go through some things, because you can't have a testimony without a test.
Mm-hmm.
If you do anything, own it. Own it. Just own up to your mistakes, live up to your potential if you can, and just be true to you.
So now, how important is it to not let your past dictate your future?
I start off with telling people I went to prison. I just tell them straight out, you know, hey, I went to prison before. Do I look like the person that's gone to prison? And they'll be like, you went to prison?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I went to an adult daycare. So, okay, that's 17 months out of my life at 47 years old that I can literally forget. I've forgotten more before I was 20 years old than I would,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't define you. Your past does not define you. What did you do after that? I'm not going back, Lord bless and say the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's a shameful thing. So use that situation, whatever situation, whether you're a victim of domestic violence, whether you're a victim of sexual abuse, whether you're a victim of physical, mental abuse, you know what I'm saying, emotional abuse, whatever it is that you feel is not just in your life, own it.
So now, what's next for you?
Getting this t-shirt business off the ground,
Okay.
starting this other company with my husband, speaking on prison reform, helping people. That I think one of the best things that I can do is talk to people that are actually on their way, because some of the advice that I got, people were they were very general. Oh, you'll be fine. Just make sure you write letters, or, you talk to the outside every now and then. Make sure, but see, those are the things that are very general. I'd be like, baby, take you some money. Make sure you do this, make sure you do that, make sure you have this, you know what I'm saying? Like, give yourself an opportunity to succeed.
So now, this is the last question. Can you share some last words of advice or encouragement for women to help them in their lives?
Women in general, I would say, build each other, build up your sisters. And I say this not to say not building up, build up everybody, whether you're white, black, Mexican, Hispanic, whatever it is. But in this day and age, you have to have an overall respect for women in general. And then you have to give that, in whatever race you are, give an extra push. I can be pro-black without being anti-white.
Mm-hmm.
I can be pro-black without being anti-Hispanic. I don't have to tear you down to build my sisters up. I don't have to do that, because we are, half of us look black, white, Mexican, Asian anyway. So, we got a rainbow of everything that all these people, because we are the originators of everything. We are the originators of love, Black women. And so I say to my women, when you see your sister, your fellow sister down, build her up. You never know what somebody's going through. You never know, just a high. I was always told that when you speak to someone, especially now in this day and age, and my grandfather used to say this, and my grandmother said, when you look a man in their eyes. I see a black man in whatever stage he's in, whether his pants are hanging down to his butt, whether his, to his ankles, whether it's a homeless man. I look a black man in his eye and I say, how you doing today, sir? Because it's just the fact that I'm acknowledging you as a person, so we have to learn how to build each other up. And I do that with Black women. If I see you in your afro and your natural and your braid state in your hair, and I be like, sister girl, you working that, you doing that. I have no problem with giving compliments where they're due. So that's my thing to women, is instead of us trying to figure out who man you got and who man you don't have and what you got in your household, because you don't know the struggle of that woman and why she has the things that she has. Like I said, I had all the material things in the world. I was making over $500,000 a year, and I have none of that. And I wasn't happy when I had it. I'm happier now with my little minimum wage than I was with all of that. So just again, be your truth. And when you have God in you, people will see it without you even mentioning his name. People will see it. People will see the sincerity inside of you. You know, they just by smiling. That's free. And so that's what I say to women all the time is like, don't think that you are ever going to be less than who you are, because you are who you're supposed to be at that time. That doesn't mean who you're going to be in the future. Doesn't mean that you're not going to be more or less or whatever, because some days you are more and some days you are less, you know. But be you at that time. Accept who you are at that moment and let somebody help you. See, women, we too busy trying to help do, oh, we want to do it ourselves. We don't need the help. Somebody say, how are you today? Oh, I'm fine. No, it's okay to say, you know what, today's a bad day. Do you have time to listen? Do you have time? I don't need your advice sometimes. I don't need you to comment. I just need you to let me vent. You know? And if you have some great advice, wonderful. But sometimes, sister girls, let's just be there for each other. And that's my advice.
I enjoyed the conversation. You gave a lot of good information. So if anybody wanted to reach out to you, how can they reach you?
Well, you can go on my website, prisonproblems.com, and I have all of my contact information there. I'm on Facebook, Prison Problems on Facebook. On Instagram is #Prison Problems. You can find me in all of my contact information. You can do Alicia, ALICIA, at prisonproblems.com. So I'm all over the place.
All right. And I want to thank everybody for watching. If you want to reach out to Three Women Voices, you can reach us at 3womenvoices@gmail.com. We're on Instagram at @3_Women Voices. We're on Facebook at @3 Women Voices. And our website is 3womenvoices.com. And I thank you for watching.